Welcome to Breaking Ground, your window on agriculture in Newfoundland and Labrador. I'm your host, Roger Monder. On this week's show, we're back to Labrador. There you'll meet Marjorie Gowdy and Jim Purdy. These two people represent the pioneering spirit that still can be found in Labrador. They are breaking new ground to grow not only traditional crops, but some experimental ones too. They are also developing a commercial product that hasn't been tried before in the Happy Valley Goose Bay area. Stay tuned to find out. Horticulture includes vegetables, of course, but also includes a wide variety of products that are related to the flower and ornamental gardens that are popping up all over the province. As host for the popular gardening series Homegrown, Wilf Nichols can attest to the phenomenal growth of gardening that is still very much in expansion mode. As national president of the Canadian Nursery Landscape Association, Portugal Cove native Mike Murray can only confirm the unbelievable growth this part of provincial agriculture has had. One growth benefit is the creation of new jobs. Monique Tobin will be with us again with guest Pam Pippi. Pam is one of the original founding members of Landscape Newfoundland and Labrador. She is in a good position to show us all how this gardening industry has been a great boost to the local economy, both in terms of business and jobs created. This interview will be a real eye-opener. Well, I'm sure we have you hooked. Now it's time for a short commercial break. We'll be right back. Now we're off to Labrador to see Marjorie Gowdy and Jim Purdy break new ground near Happy Valley Goose Bay.
Labrador is called the Big Land, and with good reason. It has big skies, big rivers, and big forests. It also has people who have big dreams, pioneer dreams. Marjorie Gowdy and Jim Purdy are two of the many farmers near Happy Valley Goose Bay who have those pioneer dreams.
And I love Labrador, and I can picture us being able to feed our own people. And I like physical work and out on the land. Can't beat it.
This land was burnt over, and then the dead wood was cut. And it's a tough thing to do because there's so many roots and stumps. We have machinery that our association owns to clear it and grind it up and push it back. Boys, it's just like the old pioneer days, I guess, here. There's a lot involved in getting it cleared. Mm-hmm. One good thing, though, no rocks. Our plans down the line is to take that piece of land up there, of course, that's flat and not narrow like this, to put U-pick strawberry operation on. We've grown some different grains here. We had potatoes here last year. We had Brussels sprouts, beans. Right now we're trying to see what will grow here. And everything we're pretty well pleased with. And we're just going to keep on, doing the main crops, the ones that we can sell roadside, and try to get the land working to grow grain for feed for animals, for one thing, and hay crops for animals. We don't have any, but sometime we hope to.
Both Jim and Marjorie plan to grow traditional crops, but there is a crop that grows naturally in Labrador, and they are going to take advantage of it.
Well, this is mostly a Christmas tree lot. We do gather some brush here for Christmas trees, but we're pioneering again here to make a Christmas tree plantation, commercial lot. It doesn't much look like it now because there's all kinds of other trees here, but they're going. And the only thing left will be balsam fir, and they'll be sheared like I started shearing on this one. There'll be a commercial, expensive Christmas tree. Well, there's a lot of people cut their own Christmas trees because it's mostly crown land, but the Department of Forestry did a survey here a few years back, and there were 3,400 trees imported to Labrador from New Brunswick and Nova Scotia, I guess. So, hell, there's a good market, and one that needs to be filled by local trees, because we got beautiful balsam fir here, mm-hmm. and good growing conditions. Mm-hmm. This is good land under our feet here.
So the potential is endless for growing crops in Labrador. What makes it all so new and exciting is that rarely has it been done in Labrador before.
It's just not a tradition here in Labrador to have commercial producers. I mean, they were out the Churchill Road and they did well out there and produced nice stuff. But the base has always brought food in to supply the military, and it was just a tradition. People didn't farm here, they worked on the base. And there were basically no farmers here. So now there's a few of us picking up, and yes, we'll easily be able to supply at least Central Labrador, you know, and no reason why we can't, you know, including eggs and chicken, milk if somebody is going to take the big jump and go into dairy. There's all kinds of good land here, good flat land, lots of water, no insects, no weeds. You don't see a dandelion in this garden. There's nothing here. It's land that hasn't been spoiled, you know, by poor farming practices, and hopefully we can, you know, keep it good.
I know there's a lot of hard work involved, but it looks pretty exciting to me. After this short break, we'll be back to have a look at the gardening part of agriculture in the province. You don't have to look far to see that gardening and everything related to it has just grown by leaps and bounds. Let's have a look and find out why.
No, believe it or not, you're still watching Breaking Ground. But we've played the intro to the popular gardening show Homegrown to flag the fact that horticulture in this province is a huge part of agriculture. The show's host, Wilf Nichols, has been a keen observer of this gardening growth.
Well, I think the changes have been huge. I've only been in Newfoundland for 10 years, and really when I first came here, people said, Newfoundlanders said to me, why did you come here? We can't grow anything here. But it's obvious you can, and the interest in gardening has gone sky high. Certainly people are spending more time at home, enjoying their home. They are out on the patio having their barbecues. They're surrounded now by potted plants, containerized vegetables, things like that. I think that the environmental movement is all part and parcel of it. We've got communities. Look at communities in bloom here. That's going like gangbusters. So. And people are seeing that they can beautify their gardens and their houses. They're going to nurseries and garden centres and asking for more interesting things. The garden centres are responding by offering more interesting things. So it's just like spiralling upwards.
A byproduct of the growing interest in gardening is the awareness of native plants. It only makes sense to look at and cultivate plants that naturally do well here.
If we're looking at diversity and we're looking at our environment, we see plants out there in the habitats that have got a lot to recommend. Beautiful berries, beautiful flowers, adapted to Newfoundland and Labrador's conditions. So can we grow those in our gardens? And then maybe, and this is where some research can come in, maybe we can select even better forms than the ones that are out there in the wild. And so again, we've got this resource that we call Newfoundland and Labrador and all the plants that grow here, and we've got opportunities to grow more interesting plants in our gardens, plants that maybe wildlife, birds, insects will take advantage of. And so again, it's diversity and people with the enthusiasm to have a go.
Mike Murray, National President of the Canadian Nursery Landscape Association, is more than excited about ornamental horticulture in this province.
Well, there's certainly been growth in the number of people who are involved in the industry. There's been growth in terms of garden centres, the production of plant materials, and the landscaping activities as well. So throughout those sectors, there's been a tremendous amount of growth. We've also seen the emergence of a turf industry where turf grasses are being produced and used and specified by both the municipalities and the designers of projects. We've seen growth in the design area as well, and both around private and public areas, landscaping has become an integral part of those particular settings. Well, I would say that has been a really exciting and interesting area because there's been a fair bit of growth in the industry. In our own business here, we're seeing from last year about a 10% increase in our own activity. We're seeing more skills developed within the industry. We're seeing a broader interest. And I guess I like to think that this is the golden age of ornamental horticulture here in Newfoundland, because we've got such great resources here. Although the weather is a bit rough, the climate's not bad. And so we can grow a host of plant materials, and more people see this as an integral part of their lives and their lifestyles. So I think it's really a very important part of the industry, and it is the #1 growth area within agriculture today.
Another natural asset that this province has in abundance is rock. As gardens get more sophisticated, rock walls, patio walkways, and the like are becoming as important as trees and flowers.
There sure is. As a matter of fact, one of the delightful things here in Newfoundland, we've got a big range of plant materials, rather of stone materials, and we see the quarrying activity increasing. We're seeing stone as being a major component in the construction of landscapes, both for walls, patios, and also walkways. That's really interesting to see how that's come into the fore. It's creating a great deal of growth in the industry, great deal of interest in the industry. Some of the members of Landscape Newfoundland and Labrador are actually shipping stone out of here. We're seeing a great deal of interest in stone. The variety of stone here is tremendous. One of the gifts of Newfoundland and Labrador is the range of product in terms of stone that we can draw down on. So yeah, that's been a really interesting development here for us. We're delighted to see and encourage those people who are engaged in that kind of activity to pursue it and to be successful at it.
We have rock and also other natural assets.
Yeah, I think utilizing, for instance, a species like larch, which is an interesting wood that stands up well in terms of resistance to rot. I think doing more with larch in terms of construction, how we might be able to utilize that species for various types of landscape applications has potential. I also think that we have a tremendous peat reserve here in Newfoundland. There's, of course, some discussion from the environmental people about peat. There's a move to reduce it in some parts of the industry, but we have a tremendous resource here, and I'm thinking there's an area of growth for the horticultural industry on an international basis. I know that I am very much interested in that myself, and it is an area where I think some investment and growth opportunities lay ahead for us.
So the ornamental side of horticulture and agriculture is just another example of what is happening all across this province. And it is another way of building on our natural strengths.
Boy, have gardens changed, even in the past 10 years. Time for a short break. When we come back, Monique Tobin will be speaking to Pam Pippi of Landscape Newfoundland and Labrador. Here's Breaking Ground reporter Monique Tobin speaking with Pam Pippi of Landscape Newfoundland and Labrador.
Pam, you've been involved in the landscaping industry for almost 20 years, and I'm sure you've seen a lot of changes and growth during that time. Would you be able to paint a picture for me of your business and what kind of changes you have seen?
Probably the most noticeable one is the variety of new materials that are available, both hardscape and softscape. So new paving stones, new lighting. The plant introductions are by the thousands every year, and it's really hard to keep on top of it. But the palette that you can use in developing a landscape now is huge in comparison to where it was 20 years ago. I knew just about every plant that was available in Canada 20 years ago, and today I couldn't tell you the lists of the new introductions. So it's changed a lot.
As a founding member of Landscape Newfoundland and Labrador, would you tell me about that organization and what you're involved in there?
That was an association that formed out of a meeting that was put forward by the government back in the early 90s. And there was a small board of directors originally. I was one of the founding members, and there was probably about 12 or 14 of us initially, and the association has now grown to almost 60 members, and we are nationally affiliated with the Canadian Nursery Landscape Association, which is a a national organization that represents over 3,000 people in the landscape industry. So even there's been huge growth in that as well, and continues to do so.
So when you first started in the landscaping industry, what were you doing, and how does that compare to what you're doing now, and what kinds of markets have opened up?
I originally worked for a local landscape architect doing landscape technology, so that involved a lot of cost estimating and quantity takeoff and site supervision and that kind of thing, but I eventually started up my own business in 1988 and have been doing residential and commercial and institutional landscape design ever since. And I probably do more residential now than commercial, so the focus has changed over the last number of years. I used to do a lot of commercial stuff, but I've slowed down a little bit in recent years, and my focus now is more on the residential side of things. And I really like that, working with individuals and helping them achieve the dreams that they have for their space, and making sure they don't spend too much money, and making sure that the landscape that they do purchase is actually going to stand up for them.
How have environmental concerns shifted some of the practices in your industry, or some of the issues that the organization has had to address?
Unfortunately, the environmental concerns right now, it seems to be a political buzzword. So it's a political will issue, and it's something that we as an industry, we've been known as the green industry forever. It's something that we have really tried to push forward and work towards since I've been in the business, but only recently now has it become politically correct to do so, and we're hoping that there's going to be some government support that will allow us to do some public education in developing, reducing your carbon footprint, for example. Plant more trees, and you need to plant trees to clean the air and that kind of thing. Reduce the use of pesticides, incorporate integrated pest management practices and best practices into your landscape maintenance programs. So there's a long way to go. God knows the world is a mess, and we've helped to make it so, but we as an industry are going to work very hard to help educate the public and ourselves to improving it.
So how are environmental concerns and the current focus on environmental issues affecting your industry?
I've been getting information from right across the country on the need for our industry to recognize the requirement for developing new best practices for reducing emissions with small motor use, and like lawnmowers and chainsaws and leaf blowers, and switching from 2-cycle engines to 4-cycle engines. There's apparently a new leaf blower out that is electric rechargeable. So I think there's going to be a real shift towards developing those new technologies and promoting them. But as well, our industry wants to really be a part of educating the public as to how they can reduce their own greenhouse gases and how they can reduce their carbon footprint on the world. And we've got a long way to go to clean up the mess that we've got made, and hopefully there's a political will now that's going to allow us to really move forward with it.
Pam, would you explain to me the difference in the profile of the industry today versus 10 to 15 years ago?
The differences in the industry 10, 15 years ago were such that there might have been 1 or 2 sod producers in the province, and all of a sudden there was a market for the product, and then all these farmers came forward looking for government assistance to develop more sod farms, and now there's a saturated market, so there's not really any room for new participants. But the sod producers would just be one aspect of it. We did have to import a lot of materials years ago, or else the materials that we used, which were local, were substandard, and now there's a lot of local producers manufacturing things like natural stone products and concrete block products. There's greenhouse operators and horticulturalists who are producing local and native plant species for retail sales. Years ago, they wouldn't have dreamt of having a greenhouse sitting outside. So everybody who is in retail now is selling things that do relate to the garden somehow, whether it's a small operation downtown or the big box stores. So it seems to be everybody's doing it, and everybody's trying to find niches that will allow them to make a few dollars in the market, but it is very competitive.
Would you say it's a healthy industry right now, the landscaping industry?
I would. I think we're poised to take off. I think with this concern about global warming now, there's nowhere to go but up. Hopefully we will take this opportunity to really do something positive and constructive, to reduce our pesticide use, to increase the planting of trees, to make the world a little bit of a kinder place for our children. I think the growth that we're going to see in this industry right now is going to be more than we have ever seen in the past. I think it's going to be exponential.
That's great, Pam. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
There seems to be no end to the growth, and of course, we all benefit. Next week, we're heading out to the Springdale area, where we'll meet Dean Rousel. To say that Dean is simply a vegetable farmer would be a gross understatement. Not only has he changed his approach to fertilizing the fields through the gas mitigation program, but him and his wife Jewel have set a marketing model that should be looked at by every supermarket manager and farmer alike. Definitely a unique formula where absolutely everyone comes out on top. Continuing with the theme of innovation and technology, we're heading out to Dick Whitaker's farm in Whitburn, where we will observe a sheep insemination program. Together with sheep from 3 other farms, 20 Newfoundland sheep were artificially inseminated. The program had vets from Alberta and Brazil show local vets how the process works. The experiment gave local farmers access to some of the best sheep breeds in the world. Still, near Whitburn, we will drop into the Rodriguez Winery in Markland, where local berries produce some of the most enjoyable wines you will ever taste. Almost 30 years ago, Dr. Hilary Rodriguez tasted a drop of homemade blueberry wine. From that first taste, a winery has evolved into a thriving business. The wines are made from fresh Newfoundland and Labrador berries, with the wines landing on shelves from Canada to China. The story of the Rodriguez Winery doesn't end there. Monique Tobin will have a chat with Leonel Rodriguez, who is part of a program that is looking into nutraceuticals. The province has a great foundation for this kind of industry because of our abundance of natural berries and natural plants. Already, native plants have been earmarked for development, and Leonel Rodriguez will update us on how this fledgling process is doing. Well, that's our show. I'm your host, Roger Monder, and we'll see you next week.